Hello, and welcome to this video of my thoughts on the Loki series. Since it's over now, it is July the 15th. We just got the last episode yesterday. And this is my video on it. I had made a video recently, but I deleted it because I just thought about something that was incorrect about it. So I'm updating it now, basically, but I deleted it just because what was the point of it? Because it was just like, I'm going to rehash my thoughts here and everything, but moving on. I thought it was an overall good series compared to the other two, because for one, there was no true kind of villain here, even though there kind of was, but it was a good story arc overall compared to, say, like Falcon the Winter Soldier was pretty good, but then you had the villains which were kind of weak and everything. There was so much in that show, but it felt more of a setup for things to come. It didn't feel like a cohesive enough of a story on its own. Like, it was just as kind of like the Mortal Kombat movie, the most recent one, the new one. It was more of a setup for Mortal Kombat itself, because it wasn't actually Mortal Kombat. But that's what I felt here too. It's like with Falcon and Winter Soldier, I felt it was more of a setup for other things to come. There were good stuff in it, with especially the whole story with Sam himself, and also what kind of Bucky was doing with, like he killed this person's son back when he was the Winter Soldier. He was dealing with the grief of that and stuff. But then we had these villains, and it's like, yeah, it had an overall okay story. The whole Carter thing being coming out as people figured out with her being the power broker that was dumb. I thought that would have been better if that was Valentina character, Julia Dreyfus's character. I thought it would have been cooler if it was revealed it was her character that was the power broker, or maybe not revealed at all. Because it's like, again, just like with Sylvie here in Loki being easily figured out that who the Loki variant was. Everybody figured out who the power broker truly was before it was revealed. It's like Marvel. I'm not sure if they just don't have good reveals anymore. Like, people easily just figure it out so much easier and quicker than they had before. Because like the reveals previously were like weak and stuff. I even hear the reveal in the recent Black Widow movie was just that who Taskmaster is, and more so I think it had to do, from what I hear, was the time of when it was revealed, not just the aspects of the reveal itself, but more so the time, because it was like, from what I hear, at the climactic end of the movie, like right as the climactic's kind of either happening or about to happen, instead of in the beginning of the movie when it would have been more impactful. But yeah, it's like the reveals are sloppy, dude, because it's like people either figure it out or just bad timed reveals, you know? And WandaVision, for me, WandaVision felt like kind of almost Game of Thrones-ish, where, you had everything in the beginning that was awesome in Game of Thrones, and the last season happened. But to give my 2 cents quick there, I thought the whole night fight scene, I think it was the first or second episode of the last season, between the living and the dead, was pretty good. I think it's idiotic how everybody was fucking comparing it to, Helm's Deep's fighting the two towers. So what I realized is, like, what they're doing in that episode is they are showing you, the audience, the same thing and knowledge of what the people, the living down below, were seeing. Their knowledge is what they're being of seeing, what they can see, what they know of what's happening out there, is the same one in which the audience was. But everyone kept comparing to Helm's Deep idiotically. I found, just like, it's apples to oranges. Everything doesn't have to be the fucking same, dude. Seriously. I thought the storytelling there with the whole aspect of not knowing what was out there was good, But maybe that's just me. Who knows? But back to that aspect of WandaVision and Game of Thrones. I felt like with WandaVision, granted, it was kind of the opposite. Whereas instead of it was the beginning that was good and the ending was bad, it was reversed. The beginning was bad, but the ending was good. Like the first half was good, but the first half was bad, but the second half was good. I understood why the first half happened and the story that they were telling there, and you didn't know it until it was revealed later on. But I felt like there wasn't enough of a reason for that, There enough of the reason for what felt like, you just trying to pour yourself through mud to get a piece of cake, is what it kind of felt like, Instead of it being, like a grand feast you were coming upon, it was just a piece of cake, is what kind of the whole beginning set it, offset the ending part was. The ending part stuff, the second half was good, when everything went to color and we were seeing what was happening outside the whole Wanda area and stuff, dude, and why things happen negatively in the beginning and stuff. I thought it was okay, but I don't think there was enough reasoning behind it. Like it wasn't as impactful as you would want it to be to state why you had to go through all of this that a lot of people just didn't enjoy, you know. But Loki, I felt was good. There were some issues here and there, like for the first part, that the whole Sylvie reveal was kind of dumb. Because first, the reason why we edited this because I thought the aspects of the TVA worked outside the timeline, but with the end episode, with the ending itself, that showed that was not the case. Because in the end, Loki didn't go back to the timeline he came from of the TVA. He went to another timeline where there was another variant of Owen Wilson's character of Mobius and stuff, you know. And in the end, people did figure out that the person behind the scenes was Kang, and I thought the whole aspects of Kang was well done. Not to mention the reason behind his existence there. It wasn't the Kang the Conqueror that we know of as this villainous person. It was another variant of him, a more intelligent, more just like hard-hitting Kang, who tried to do what he thought was best to ensure the stability of all existence. And then, of course, you had, hang on, let me get my notes out. So I just remember I had some notes here about it from last time I did this stuff. Okay, let's see. But yeah, the main issue I had was with why they kept referring in the beginning before Sylvie's reveal of this Loki variant as a him instead of her. Because that's where my thought was with the TVA of existing outside the timeline. Was because, like, how time works differently in the TVA compared to the regular time of flow, with how she was first taken as a little child, like at 5, 6, somewhere between 5 and 10 years old. She was taken as a child, and then she escaped and was on the run. I thought, well, with how time probably works differently in the TVA compared to the flow of time itself, it maybe had been like tons and tons of more years than how old Sylvia went from when she escaped to when we first meet her. It's the reason why they had a difference of the sex of her, you know, of it being him instead of her. But I'm not sure if that really truly holds up, because it does feel odd. Cause the only reason it, from what I first saw in it, was it was there for audience purposes, but it fell short because everyone figured it out before the refill, and it was for Tom Hiddleston's Loki, you know, because, you know, every time they're talking about the variant, they always say him, you know, it's him, you know, when we first meet Owen Wilson's character Mobius, he's like, yeah, it looks like him, you know, the blade size and everything, you know, they always refer to Sylvia as a him. But like I said, outside the aspects of only being as a reveal for the audience, which kind of fell flat because everyone figured that out, it was for also Tom Hiddleston's Loki, which was like an moment kind of thing. It's like, he's just there, it's like, hey, this isn't about you, and he sees who the Loki variant is. He's like, a female Loki, okay. Like, it seemed interesting, but outside of that, like, how did they fuck up not knowing it was her? You know, why is everyone referring to her as him? The only other theory I have is, like I said, just like, since TVA like has its own kind of aspects of a timeline, it doesn't work within the main timeline itself somewhat. Time flows differently. The only thing I think it was like I said, the time in which they were hunting her was a lot longer than her existing and running around trying to, you know, survive and just not be captured by the TVA. I think that's my only theory, is like throughout the aspects of her running, it was a lot longer for them than it was for her. And in doing so, somehow the aspects of the knowledge of who this variant is changed somehow or something. It felt confusing because, again, from what I could tell, there was no other variant that has ever escaped and was out and about and they were trying to catch, you know? It was only her. So how did this misinformation happen within the TVA itself? It felt weird, you know? And what else? Lamentis. Lamentis I found was okay. I understand why people see it as kind of a filler episode, because the way in which it worked, there were some issues in itself for me, like how when they're on the train and you see that train, like the overview of the train going by, and you see like out in the distance like this huge chunk of the planet, which I'll say give my opinion about in a second, like coming down onto Lamentus. I saw it coming down with like less of a force than you think it would, because it's a huge, and I think they meant to have it as a farther draw distance from where the train itself was than it appeared to me to be, because it looked like it was like within a mile's distance away from the train. So I thought it would have a bigger impact than what it was having. 'Cause it looked huge, dude. Like it looked like the size of New York or something, dude. Like it looked massive, but it didn't seem to have the impact I thought it was going to have. With how close it seemed to the train. Like again, I said I think it was supposed to be a lot farther away than it appeared to be, at least to me. I don't know, but yeah, the whole aspect of Lamentus being in the moon and the planets crashing on it, I found was kind of idiotic. Because again, you had the whole aspects of gravitational pull. So I was thinking maybe it's two planets colliding in together, maybe two moons colliding together, or it should have been like a moon colliding onto the planet. It felt idiotic how they kept having it be stated it's a planet crashed onto a moon. But a moon is always called a moon because it's smaller than what a planet is. That did seem quite idiotic to me. What else? The whole Love Loki Nexus event, the whole Loki Sylvia, on Limitless itself, felt like it kind of fell shorter than it should have. There was a reason behind it. I understood, because it's how Loki and Sylvie got rescued. But past that, it seemed to serve less of a purpose than what it felt like it was being built up to wise. How the aspects of, Mobius asking Loki what happened on them to cause that Nexus event. Loki feeling like he was going to try and cause another Nexus event within the TVA after the whole Time Lords thing, dude. It's just like it felt like it was going to be a lot more impactful within the show itself than it did. Maybe it caused more of a Nexus event when they did kiss at the end than I may be seeing. I doubt it, because I think the whole aspects of the Nexus events happening and everything, the timeline going into the branches that they were because of two things. Because, of course, of Sylvie killing Kang, and because what Mobius had that agent lady doing, finding the top brass, but as a teacher, exposing it all. And I think those two events were causing more Nexus events happening than just the kiss itself. Maybe it's going to be more impactful later on down when we see stuff like Doctor Strange and maybe another season of Loki or something. But I felt in the show itself, it wasn't as impactful as they were making it out to be, outside of the whole it causing that Nexus event in a cataclysmic end everything event that you usually don't see a Nexus event, because it's like everything's going to die, nothing's going to matter, so why would there be a Nexus event happening? Outside of that, it just fell short, but whatever. Let's move on. Another gripe I kind of have, it's understandable, but the whole aspects of the that gentleman you see in the beginning when Loki first gets into the TVA, you have that lady agent dropping down the Tesseract and telling him to log it in, and he's like, "What is this?" It's like Loki's like, "It's the Tesseract. It's all powerful." It felt kind of confusing how he didn't know what a Tesseract is. Do they just never get a Tesseract in? Because later on you see, when Loki finds him again when he's trying to escape, like he's like, "Tell me what the Tesseract is. I'm going to gut you like a fish." He's like, "What a fish is?" And then he pulls out the drawer and you have all these Infinity Stones. It's like, how do you have all these Infinity Stones? He's like, "Oh yeah, we get those a ton. People use them as paperweights." And you see there are multiple of similar types. How's they never got the Tesseract, or at least the Space Stone in that form, as the Tesseract itself? Has it only ever existed within that timeline, ever? It seems confusing to me. Whatever, and also you have the aspects of, like, he doesn't know what a fish is, and you see them later on, they eating, because they have to eat and drink to still exist. And they just never have fish there? They never eat fish. It's only salads or something. Okay, a little confusing. I take it. What else? Oh yeah, when Mobius gets pruned, I felt Loki should have had a line there when he's passing by the main top brass, and she's like, "Wait for me by the elevator." It's like, I feel like he should have more of a line than her. Like, I understand her saying no because he needs to be at the elevator, but I felt like he would have said something in that moment, for who Loki is and how recent it was and compared to New York. I understand why people say he seems way too different in that quick time span from when the show begins, which was right at the end of the events of New York and the Avengers, to the last episode. But I feel like for me it was, maybe it shouldn't have been as big as it was, but it meant something because he's in the TVA and he's feeling all this dread and just horror to seeing how powerful this organization is compared to an Infinity Stone. Infinity Stones were seen as huge, great things, and he goes to a drawer and he sees a ton of them. And he's like, Infinity Stones mean nothing here? Is this the greatest power of existence ever? Like, when he sees that and he just says that line, he says, it's just like, I feel like he feels this huge dread, and then he later on goes back to that room where Mobius was, and he sees all his events happening leading up to his death by Thanos. I think it just, yeah, I'm sorry, my apologies. He sees that before that. No, I'm sorry. He sees that, but before the lady comes in. I'm just trying to keep my mind on the timeline of it all. But yeah, he sees all this stuff, he sees the Infinity Stones, which mean nothing there, and then he sees his death, and just like all this knowledge and just existence of happening, and just how powerful the TVA is, and how he just later on sees his death and stuff. I think he feels all this dread and just horror in himself from having all this huge, let's be real, it's huge knowledge. Like, think of it like it was you, like you were brought to the TVA and you were privy to all this knowledge, and then you see your life and how it goes on to the point when you die and see how you die. Would you not feel such horror and dread knowing what he knew? I mean, seriously. I think it would change a man. I think it would change anybody. I mean, he was the god of mischief, yes, but I think seeing all what he saw and knowing all he just learned was such huge information that it crushed him, and from that he changed into the Loki that he became, in the show itself. I understand why it shouldn't be as huge as a change as it was, but I understand why the change itself happened, because he just had all this knowledge just dropped on him in a day, within probably like an hour or two. Within an hour or two, he had all this knowledge just shoved into his face, and it just hit him so hard. He tried to figure out the best way to exist, to not be pruned, to be killed and or reset or whatever, to find the best path out for him. I assume that's what he did, with it. Maybe it should have been so drastic as it was, but I felt understandable why it came about of a character film as it did. What else was there? Yeah, back to the part I was talking about, how Loki should have gotten a word in after Mobius died. I felt like he should have said something, and like he would look at her and at the top brass and say, "And you consider me an evil asshole or murderous scumbag," or something, like some line, because he just saw this person who just wanted to do his day-to-day job, who wanted right to exist, and knowing what he knew, just get pruned, and just like you could see just the dread on his face, like he had a tear brought down by his eyes, and he's just like, holy crap, these fucking people, I think Loki would have had a word in, like a quick word in of something impactful to say to her, It was understandable why he didn't say it, because it's just like he just saw this person who was like his best bet of getting out of this situation, just See. I also thought within that episode when Loki gets pruned, that whole dumbass end credit scene where it's just like, hey, he's still alive, don't worry. He still exists. You'll see him in the next episode. I thought that was dumb. I thought that was fucking dumb. I think it would have been more of a impactful surprise when we found out in the next episode, you know? I thought that end credit scene was just dumb. It should have been more of a reveal in the next episode, you know? I hate how studios do that, how they kind of ruin things for the audience themselves that would be more impactful if it was seen like in the episode itself or in the movie itself, like how, you know, you had the whole Star Wars Phantom Menace reveal of, I can't remember what the dude's name is with the dual lightsaber. You know, the fact that, like, I think that would have been a lot more impactful seen in the movie, but that was close before it happened. Yeah, what else? But in the end, I saw that I understood why Sylvia killed King the way he did. It's just how her life was ruined by the TVA, and basically the person that was the cause of it all was King himself. She couldn't let that anger and hatred for have her life ruined the way it was because of him, and she killed him. I understood that. I get it. I get it. I think though, even killing him, those branches would have still existed because the whole finding the top brass when she was still living out her life as a person, as the teacher she was. Yeah, I understood that. But I saw a review recently. I thought it would have been cool too. You know how instead of having Doctor Strange being titled the way it was, you know, Doctor Strange, the Madness of the Multiverse, it would have been better if it was called something else and not like we didn't have much knowledge of what it was until the last episode of Loki, where like they show the title and then they get rearranged to Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I thought that would have been cool too. I thought that would have been cool. But other than that, I think it was a overall good show. Loki, I thought it was a good show. I just hope that from what everything happens here, there's gonna be more stakes and more of just like a impact to what has happened later on and what Marvel kind of has done. You know, kind of like how they did with Iron Man 3 with the Mandarin. I actually have a theory about that movie, dude. I actually have a theory. Granted, it's only that. It's only a theory. I have like 2 small pieces of evidence to support it. But past that, it's all it is. I could be wrong. I could be right. I don't care. It's just a theory. And that is, in Iron Man 3, they didn't just kind of ruin one villain. Granted, who knows if that's going to be retcon itself. It's because the rumor is, you know, he is actually the Mandarin instead of him not being. It was like a fake. But my theory is that, hang on, let's see, who was the main villain of it again? Let's see. Who was the main villain? Aldrich Killian, that's right, Aldrich Killian, played by Guy Pearce. I have a theory on that character, and that it was a villain actually from the comic books in another form. And that character being Fin Fang Foom. Now, if you don't know who Fin Fang Foom is, he is a dragon. Let's see. What is he considered? Fin Fang Foom. There's actually a Fin Fang Foom Iron Man 3 here thing. Why Iron Man has a Fin Fang Foom Easter egg in it. I don't think it's an Easter egg. I think it's actually him. But Fin Fang Foom is a Makluan shape-shifting alien being from the world of Kakawan Thawa, also known as Maku 4. But he's kind of got a dragon form in it. Now, the reason I have this theory is because that Killian was actually like a human embodiment of him. Because first, they haven't done anything, you know, mystical yet within the Marvel Universe. Deal with Doctor Strange, and this was before that. But, of course, you know, from what I can remember from comic books that I've read, is that he has a tie to the Mandarin and the Ten Rings. And Killian in the movie himself, he does 2 things that are dragon-like-esque. Well, at least one. The other one is something else. But when he's fighting, well, not fighting, when he's got Rhodey and he's in that iron suit, and he pops out and he's ready to fight, Killian, you know, he breathes fire. And what did the dragons do? Breathe fire. And then later on in his fight against Tony, Iron Man, when he's really, getting heated up and he's got all these markings on his body, he has like two dragons on his chest. Like I said, those are only my two pieces of evidence to support my theory. I understand it's just a theory itself. But I just want to get it out there. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the overall of Loki series and the whole aspects of the Marvel Cinematic Disney Plus universe shows. But I thank you for watching. I hope you're informed, and I hope you have a welcome suckum day. A peace.